Good morning and welcome to the pre-agenda interview for Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, relative to the appointment of Alyssa Eberhardt as a member of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 991, Resolution reappointing Alyssa Eberhardt as a member of the Clean Pittsburgh Commission with a term to expire September 1st, 2028.
Thank you very much. And as we were having a conversation before this, it came to light that this might be an appointment rather than a reappointment. So we'll just double check, and if that changed, double check with the commission and everyone to get on the same page. And if that change is needed, we can make that at the meeting upon final vote. So we might have other council members joining us shortly, but in the meantime, Ms. Eberhardt, would you like to introduce yourself to the public and to us and to tell us a little bit more about your interest in serving on the Clean Pittsburgh Commission as an official member? I understand you've been sitting in for about a year now. That's great. And you can just pull it closer to you so you can be heard.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Eberhardt. I am the program director with Allegheny Cleanways. I've been with the organization, it'll be 2 years this December. I started sitting with the Clean Pittsburgh Commission January of 2024 when our previous executive director had left our organization, stepped down from the commission, and I stepped up to fill that seat. I have really enjoyed it so far. I really enjoy working with everyone that is on the commission, everyone who has joined since I started sitting on. And I think those of us who are there are really passionate about Pittsburgh and what the mission of the commission is. And I think with my experience and my position in Cleanways, it's perfect to work in collaboration with everyone else on the commission to really achieve the goals.
Yeah. And you've had the benefit now of sitting in and participating, I guess, I don't even know what you call it, probably not an ex officio member, but as a volunteer on the commission. And so you've gotten a sense of how they work and what their goals are. What would you say are some of the goals of the commission at this time?
I think one of the goals is one of honestly my favorite goals of the commission is for everyone who is an active member of the commission we all have different goals and missions within our own positions at our work, bringing those together and with the commission using all of those resources and ideas that we have from our own organizations to bring it in and benefit Pittsburgh in a number of different ways, specifically addressing some of the environmental health needs of the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One thing that I've noticed in working at the city for about 10 years, about more than 6 years on council as a council member, is that, we get really great support from community members whenever the city or community members in partnership with the city engages in litter pickup, educational events around litter pickup. And of course, you're in this every single day as a staff member as the program director of Allegheny Cleanways. The endless opportunity for cleanups because the problem isn't really being solved of illegal dumping, whether it's illegal dumping or whether it is kind of a less of a mass hillside dumping event and more of a just general trash and litter on the streets for various reasons, right? Mm-hmm. And it all comes down to the root issue of our waste is treated as waste rather than a resource. And that comes down to various ways that we treat it, right? Policies at the state and federal level. I asked these to others who were being considered for this commission position as well. Do you think that there's room or an appetite or even the ability for the commission to start to, if not advocate for and lobby themselves, to empower those who can, like council members, to advocate and lobby for, stronger recycling rules at the state level, really creative program ideas that could really help us yes, continue to clean up, and yes, continue to educate, and yes, continue to do all the wonderful things that we do, but also change the laws, change the rules, and start programs that get to some of the root causes.
Absolutely. I think just in the short time I've been with the commission and in this organization, I've already had the chance to meet a bunch of council members, both in Pittsburgh and state level and other municipalities within Allegheny County. And most folks that I talk to are really passionate about it and know and acknowledge that it is an issue, but maybe are just unsure of how to address it, because there has been so many different attempts already to address both intentional and accidental trash being misplaced. And we have been doing this for so long and we haven't quite figured out how to do it. So I think right now we're just almost at a loss of what to do. So working together with the commission, with all of the organizations, and with local representation, just continuing to experiment and come up with new ideas, and just not letting that feeling of we have tried everything prevent us from continuing to try and come up with new ideas.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it always comes down, if there's some, it doesn't always have to be a market solution, but if there is some way to refine the reuse or the recycling of certain materials that make it economically viable to then collect it, give the municipality or the person, like the bottle bill that we have in other states, in Michigan and Massachusetts, and et cetera, right? There's an economic incentive to turn it in rather than throwing it away, for the person, for the company, for everyone, and then they reuse it and turn it into a new or recycled material. That is what I'm super interested in. And I keep thinking, and I'll say this in every chance I get, or every forum I get, that if we have all these universities, some of whom are, have the brain power around material science and, explaining to us exactly why it's impossible to ever get to a economically viable way to recycle those thin, single-use plastic bags. Those kinds of thought leaders and academics and researchers, if we could get to the point where they are then working with entrepreneurs to create, local recycling businesses for some of these materials, that would be incredible. That would be the thing that would be the game changer, I think, for us. So, I'd hope that there's always, there's the scanning that's constantly happening for those opportunities too, to say, hey, like, let's partner this group with this group, put a project together, and get some funding to see what happens when we put them together.
Absolutely.
But so what do you hope to continue to bring yourself and representing your organization to the Clean Pittsburgh Commission?
I hope to definitely continue to bring our mission to the Clean Pittsburgh Commission, which is to empower folks to eliminate litter and illegal dumping throughout Allegheny County, with a vision of a clean and beautiful county for all. That is exactly what our mission and vision is. And wanting to bring that to the Clean Pittsburgh Commission, so we keep in mind that it's everyone that needs to be positively impacted by our work, not just a select few, not just with certain folks that have resources. It's everyone. It's because in order to be successful in our work, it needs to be holistic, and it isn't just picking up garbage. It is finding all of the other environmental, public health, social impacts that contribute to it, so we can address all of them together in order to achieve our goals.
Yeah, I love hearing that it's not necessarily just a problem, it's a symptom of a deeper problem that is human related.
Absolutely.
And social related. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add? I don't have any more questions myself, so anything else you want to add that we didn't cover?
I think that pretty much covers it. I appreciate having had this opportunity to sit with the commission all this time and really get a feel for it and learn more about how I can contribute before really becoming a member. So this year has been a great experience so far.
Great. Well, thank you for your willingness to serve. I know that our commissions and boards and authorities are all unpaid volunteer positions, so thank you for spending additional time serving the city, serving the commission. And unless there's anything further to add, we can conclude. Having exhausted the business of this pre-agenda interview, this meeting is adjourned. Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee's meeting for Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. All council meetings will be live streamed on the city's website. And for guest speakers joining us at the table, please do not turn your microphones off. Our first order of business is roll call. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Mr. Sharland. Here. Mr. Coghill.
Here.
Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle. Mr. Mosley.
Here.
Mrs. Kelsmith. Ms. Warwick. Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Ms. Strasburger, Chair.
Here.
6 members present.
Thank you. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before City Council. Profanity will not be permitted. Please state your name and neighborhood for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. Our first registered speaker is Sam Schmidt.
Hi, good morning, members of council. My name is Sam Schmidt. I'm a Penn Hills resident, co-founder of homeless outreach and advocacy group Our Streets Collective, facilitator of Pittsburgh's National Union of the Homeless chapter, member of the Homeless Outreach Coordinating Committee, and a member of the Housing Justice Table. I'm here to oppose Councilwoman Teresa Kale-Smith's proposed zoning amendment bill, Bill 2024-0701. Didn't want my comment to get lost in the dozens of others that you're going to have at the next hearing about it. And I'm here to put the rest of this council on notice. Our community will not tolerate blatant discrimination against the unhoused and disabled in our legislation. If you continue to peddle hate and intolerance through our legislative process, we will organize to remove you from your seats, period. This amendment, masked as housing oversight, is a harmful policy that excludes unhoused and people with disabilities from stable housing pathways. It narrows an already limited path to housing, encouraging intolerance Pittsburghers find repulsive and contrary to our community values. For many, including myself, homelessness is a personal issue. At 19, I became homeless after an illegal eviction. While on the street, I learned that homelessness can happen to anyone and that it is happening to countless Americans every day. This amendment suggests that being unhoused or disabled makes people less worthy of both homes and family, a dangerous and false belief that has no place on this council. Many of our unhoused neighbors are where they are due to injury, medical debt, abuse, aging out of foster care, or other crises. This bill denies their personhood and value in our community, placing their fates in the hands of politicians who repeatedly fail to recognize their worth. The restrictive definition of family here ignores the chosen families that form within unhoused communities, which often become necessary for survival. These bonds are vital, but this amendment would isolate individuals who are already vulnerable, abandoned by community, and left behind by city policies. These individuals are already experiencing isolation that housed folks cannot even imagine. This amendment also strips decision-making from experts, placing it in political hands that lack empathy and lived experience. At a time when more voices of lived experience are desperately needed in the decision-making process, this amendment seeks to blatantly silence and erase them. Further, it disregards Fair Housing Act protections, embedding discriminatory practices against the very people these laws are meant to protect. The Housing Justice Table and other advocates strongly oppose this amendment, and we behoove you to recognize the political power of a coalition of more than 30 organizations from across the city who routinely come together to fix what you are not. Pittsburgh rejects this bigotry and urges you to support policies that recognize every person's right to housing, dignity, personhood, and family in all forms. I'm asking you to oppose this amendment to Bill 2024-0701 and think seriously about housing for all Pittsburghers, not just the ones you deem worthy. Thank you.
Thank you. And council members did receive your written comments as well. Our next registered speaker is Laura Perkins.
Good morning, everyone. Laura Perkins, she, her pronouns. I live in Friendship. I'm the human rights organizer at Casa San Jose. We work with Latino immigrants. across Southwest Pennsylvania. Specifically in Pittsburgh, our immigrant community is growing, and Casa San Jose receives many newly arrived asylum seekers every week. Our asylum seekers receive very low pay for their work, and they have higher rates of evictions and homelessness. So I'm making public comment in opposition to the Zoning Amendment Bill 2024-07. At Casa San Jose, we personally know that there are 0 to very few spaces in Pittsburgh homeless shelters, and this is an urgent issue. Councilmember Cale Smith has spoken and communicated a lot about the custodial care facilities and used fear-mongering, pitting neighbors against the facilities, when the solution should be investing in the needs of all community members, especially those that are unhoused. Councilmember Cale Smith has made the argument that technically her proposal does not violate the Fair Housing Act. Really? Is that the argument we're making, that technically we're not violating something based in human rights? Technically not violating what the UN recognizes as a human right, it should not be our base. I've made the argument up and down Pittsburgh, Southwest Pennsylvania, and the state of Pennsylvania that many publicly and federally funded agencies are violating Title VI of the Americans Disabilities Act, denying services in other languages. My statements, more often than not, are responded to by an attorney who manipulates numbers and claims that they are technically not violating that law, instead of actually listening and coming up with a solution to what the community needs. We have the same issue with this proposed amendment. Our community desperately needs housing, services for the disabled, resources for people returning from jails and prisons, and accessible transit. And creating more barriers to those services is not the answer. Saying not in my neighborhood is not the answer. We need to do better. Please oppose the Zoning Amendment Bill 2024-0701. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next registered speaker is Madeline McGrady. Thank you. We will move then on to our next speaker, LaShawn McBride. Is LaShawn McBride with us? And we will move on to our final registered speaker, Ikahana Helmakina. Okay, also not present. Having exhausted there being no further registered speakers, we will now take comments from those in the audience wishing to speak. Are there any speakers wishing to come to the podium?
Good morning. My name is Stanley Lowe. I'm from Manchester. I'm not going to take a lot of your time today. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Dan for meeting with us last week. We do appreciate that. Second thing I want to say is that I understand the list was read of all the things that were happening in Manchester last time I was here. Dan shared it with us when we were at our meeting. Problem with the list is no one wanted to verify it. We walked the streets this weekend. We house by house, list by list. We stand on what we said before. There has not been one new constructed house, affordable house built in Manchester in the last 12 years. We'll be glad to walk you through the list in the neighborhood. I understand, you understand what Reagan said, trust but verify. We went and looked at the list. Secondly, the thing we want to point out is last night we had our community meeting. Over 200 people showed up. We had our community meeting to talk about the $650 million or however million dollars they want to put into the neighborhood. Councilman, they told me that I need to come and say to you today, we appreciate your efforts. We do know that you care. We do know that you're working in our neighborhood. We do know that you want to be fair. To the extent we're asking you to please call a community meeting and invite the mayor and invite the developers to come to the community to talk to all of us in the neighborhood. You can't have a meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the planning department, speak 3 minutes and expect the neighbor to fully understand what's going on. You can't spend $650 million next to Manchester and assume there won't be any impact on the neighborhood. So we're asking for that community meeting. Second thing we're asking for is when Edgar Kaufman tore down the lower hill, he was responsible in Lawrence. If there had been a community impact study done in advance, you would know what you're facing. We have no idea what the community impact of the $650 million is going to be on our neighborhood. We need a community impact study done. Once the community impact study is done, we then need to look at what are the community benefits of it. No one has said, given $650 million being built next to our neighborhood, these are the benefits. There's no community benefit plan structure for this. Please think of this. We're having a discussion that simply says, do we think it's a good idea to spend $650 million next to Manchester? Without understanding the impacts whatsoever. Please help us stop the insanity of this discussion. Councilman, again, we do thank you. You have been responsive. We're asking that you continue to be responsive. We do need a community meeting with the developers in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live at 715 Mercer Street. That's in Katy, where it's tires up on Bedford Avenue. First, I would like to say, as far as like with the president, who we are going to elect or for president, we have Kamala and we have Trump. But I'm saying, why can't we vote for Dr. Ronald Miller? I believe that he would be better than the both of them. Now, we don't agree lock, stock, and barrel, because there's some things that he says I might not agree with, but I do believe that he has the city and the people, poor people, in mind, that he would try to help us. Now, also, I would like to say, I didn't come yesterday and I heard that you got rid of the, you just can laugh, because just laughing shows how ignorant the Dutchins are. It really shows when you start laughing at that man is educated, very educated. Then also, which he didn't want me to say, but he had raised 2 daughters. And when you raise women, you understand, they teach you about love and teach you about having some empathy and some kind of compassion. See, you just don't have it for me, and I really don't care now. At one time it bothered me, but I look at we the people have elected you, and you are youngsters that don't care about anything but what you care about. Now, what I say about the old politicians, them old politicians, they fought for the people, not for what you think that you should do. See, you just don't really understand. When I'm coming down here, I don't want to come. I'm coming because you 9 make the decisions, and a lot of times we die because of the decisions you didn't make. So I'm just saying, consider us. And another thing, you're getting rid of the chief of police. We didn't get a chance to speak to him, but he promised that anytime Tim Stevens would have his meetings, that the written questions he'll answer, but also, before he left that room, he was going to say, is there anybody in the room that has any other questions? Not just what Tim Stevens said we can ask. Do you understand what you do? I seen one time somebody gave Tim Stevens $500 and somebody else $100, and that he gave a meeting. But the meeting, we cannot ask questions, only what he writes. How come we're paying him? And you gave him money, Mr. Lavelle, and he give him money, but we can't ask questions. But that's our money from our community. So how can that be? And then on top of it, I'll be talking about colorism. That's because he's light complected. Do you understand? Dark complected people, we have a hard time. Light complected, now he can stand, like, and he makes sure that when they had that meeting, my children are mixed. I was very upset. I said, so Tim, what was you saying? Because you're light complected, don't mess with them. My black son died because 5 cops let him die.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Special Agent Sunshine. I just want to open up with prayer, because it is the foundation of my life. Father, thank you that I walk by faith and not by sight. Thank you that your power can turn clouded situations around, open the right door, and bring an abundance of unexpected favor to my life and the life of others. Thank you that you are able to take even the most unfair situations and turn them into positives. Thank you that you are directing my steps even through the hurts, the questions, and the disappointments. I am living with a sense of expectancy that you are about to bring some unexpected sunshine. In Jesus' name, amen. Matthew 6:22 says, if your eye is pure, there will be sunshine in your soul. It's hard to be pure, y'all, when there's so much toxicity in this world. Starting with the air we breathe. Come on, somebody gotta hear me with this one. I can't breathe right now. Why? Because of smoke. I'm literally being stalked by someone who smokes a cigar, and they might be being paid to do it because whoever is paying them to do it knows that I have asthma. So, okay, if we stop her from breathing, that'll be the victory. Absolutely not. God is the one who makes me breathe. Every breath I take comes from Him. Every beat of my heart comes from Him. And whoever is doing this, you will never have more power than Him. Why is it that the mayor's office is right next door and he can't come and face me? I'm not excluding anybody else, but there's a reason he will not come and face me. What are you, Mayor? A leader or a thug? Really? You bully people. Here's an example. Yesterday when I came from the Free Live Jazz, two guys came in front of me arguing. One was the aggressor, the other one was supposedly afraid. I knew it was orchestrated. But one of them said, I'm trying to go to, let's go under the bridge. Let's go. You don't know who I am? I got my gun right here. Like, really? Bullets don't work in the spiritual realm. Try to shoot Katrina with every bullet you got. Do you think that would have stopped her destruction? It will not. No bullet will stop universal forces, and that's what's protecting me. That's why I'm still here. Proverbs 28:8 says, whoever increases wealth by taking interest or profit from the poor amasses it for another who will be kind to the poor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Howard H.P. Jackson. Black Political Empowerment Project. Grew up with NACP all my life in Pittsburgh. To reflect, you know, I've been on and on about this here Willie Lynch fella. And I'm gonna tell you, President Woodrow Wilson, he was educated, he grew up in the 1800s, and with the Willie Lynch epics, he grew up down south. And he transformed to be a president and a reverend with Ku Klux Klan Bible epics for slavery. Now, this president, 1914, I advocated about 16 on how he responded and connected with American people in this country. Let me help you on how he transformed the history. He wrote a 6-book encyclopedia about the Revolution War. And you know what? There is no black heroes from 1776, how they, helped us have a nation today in this country. A 6-book encyclopedia as a president, writing the book of, advocating for the birth of the nation, and had white people with black faces to make us be an example of ignorance. And here it is, this man eliminated the history from 1776 of our black heroes that helped build this country. Just think about what I'm saying. Now, I'm looking at this here fella, Trump, that I'm worried about with this man, Willie Lynch epics through Woodrow Wilson. I just want to go ahead and, I'm 71 years old, and I grew up with the era of like the civil rights movement. I'm 10 years old, you know, Kennedy getting killed and LBJ comes in the office to go ahead and unify this here country. And I got Trump being a knucklehead. I mean, advocating lies to go ahead and redirect our history. But Woodrow Wilson, he documented 6 books in the encyclopedia, a president, and advocated that like we would step in and fetch it as an image in this country. Why are we eliminated? I need your help to go on out there and vote. 248 years. I remember in 1976, we celebrated 200 years to be united. We cannot let this man win and get in office. Need your help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Are there any further speakers? There being no further speakers, we will now move on to our standing committee's agenda. Our first committee is the Finance and Law Committee, and we have new papers, Bill 1067, excuse me. It's not in my, sorry. Okay. So we have a recommitted paper, Bill 1039.
Bill 1039, resolution amending resolution number 237 of 2021 to provide for the extension of a professional services agreement through June 30 of 2026 with Zeo Technologies for costs associated with the provision of web hosting services for the City Controller's Office at a total cost not to exceed $26,250.
Motion to approve.
Discussion? So at the request of the Controller's Office, they would like to request a 3-week hold while they continue to look into some questions regarding this proposed vendor.
Motion to hold for 3 weeks.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of a 3-week hold, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill will be held 3 weeks. Okay. That moves us on now to new papers. Bill 1067.
Bill 1067, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of Meyer, Unkovic, and Scott, LLP, for expert legal services in connection with the litigation matter filed in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas for an amount not to exceed $10,647.50 over 1 year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? There was an executive session held on October 22nd. Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1067, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Affirmative recommendation, Bill 1069.
Bill 1069, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of finance to extend existing contracts with financial institutions designated by council to act as depositories for the city of Pittsburgh in 2024 by extending the contracts by 1 additional year through 2025 as permitted by Chapter 221.09 of the City Code at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. This might be
Councilperson
just a
Charlin.
question for you. What happens here? I'm not sure what our depositories are.
Ah, yes, I will bring Director Gula. Let's have Director Gula here.
I imagine this can be a quick question. I don't need to belabor this. First time I've seen something like this, so.
Quite all right. Good morning, I'm Jen Gula. I'm the city's finance director and city treasurer. So we contract with various financial institutions to basically bank city money. So there's totally a current of number of 9 of them, most of them located within the city. There's one that has an extremely small office but is based mostly out of Ohio. We do face-to-face banking with them. Our general fund and our capital accounts are held with them. And we also use them for investment. So, in a nutshell.
Do we go out to bid with these banks?
We do.
Or okay.
Yep.
Okay.
We do an RFP every other year for depository services, and basically, as long as they meet a list of financial requirements, we can consider them to be a depository. There's a community reinvestment portion where they're required to submit a community reinvestment plan to the city, which is then reviewed by another vendor, and the information is presented to a reinvestment review committee to determine the viability of their plans and whether or not, if they've been depositories before, if they're living up to the promises that they've made to us, after which they send a recommendation to the finance department as to whether or not to increase or decrease the city's business with these institutions based on their performance.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is the first time I've seen it. So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Council President LaBelle.
Thank you. Just for additional context, Councilman Sherlin and I guess all members, had a meeting with Director Gula a month, 2 months ago, maybe?
About a month ago.
About a month ago?
Yeah.
Where part of what we talked about
President, I
was-
think your mic's off.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Just for additional context, because I sit on the actual review committee that makes recommendation, and part of what we talked about when we met a month ago or so was that we didn't believe we were getting the biggest bang for our bucks from many of the banks that are holding our dollars in terms of how they're actually investing it within the city. And so part of the reason to extend now is that we actually wanted to take time to revisit the ordinance that establishes the review of the banks and how they hold our dollars, so that we can put sort of stricter language in place, adjust it so that we can also have smaller banks participating, and do a number of things that will hopefully drive investment with our dollars into the city. Some years ago, it was the URA actually pulled money out of PNC Bank and put more dollars in Dollar Bank, because we saw Dollar Bank being a greater partner to the URA than we saw PNC Bank, as one example of how we can actually move dollars around. And so we're hoping over the course of the next year to be able to revisit the ordinance, and hopefully put more guardrails in place so that those banks that are holding our dollars are actually investing in the city and providing the loans, the mortgages, the business lending opportunities that our residents really need. So just additional context.
Councilwoman Gross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director, thank you for being here. Can you tell us who sits on this committee that Councilman LaBelle is also a part of?
So there are representatives from the administration, from council, from the finance department, myself included, the controller's office, and then some stakeholders in specific community groups.
Are the seats prescribed in the ordinance?
Yes.
Yes.
How many seats, which people from the administration? Okay, so we'll have to review the ordinance. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it would be in there's a chapter title, something that's our financial ordinances, and I can't remember what title that is off the top of my head. So if we have, there's more than one council seat on this committee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councilman LaBelle. So I think each time this has come up, which is about every 3 years, I think.
It's every 2
Is
years.
it 2? Mm-hmm. That we talk about how the council has been really supportive of this goal of making sure that financial institutions reinvest in the city, right? It's almost parallel to the Community Reinvestment Act at the federal level or something, that we have our own kind of investment criteria and investment goals, right? To say that we should be putting our money, not in institutions that are unsafe or institutions that don't give us a good return, but that also them reinvesting in, for example, small businesses, mortgages are really important to the kinds of financial institutions where we want to put our money. How much money at a time, in terms of like cash flow, right, is like in these banks that are subject to this review committee and these criteria in this ordinance?
It depends on what kind of accounts they hold and what kind of business we do with them. So obviously, on any given day, the money in the general fund could be like tens of millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions of dollars in the capital fund as well. But there could also be investments which are in the hundreds of thousands or only a few million. So it just depends on what type of business that we're actually conducting with those institutions.
But in the total pot,
The total pot would be like our budget, which could be, in upwards of $600 million at any given moment.
but it's not always that much.
Not always
You're
that
right,
much,
but it can reach
could
that
be.
high.
Mhm.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think that's important for us to keep in front of us too, that this is not an insignificant amount of money. And so it has the potential to do a positive effect. So if we do this 1-year extension, what's our timeline on when these arrangements expire?
So the arrangements would expire at the end of 2025, so December 21st or 31st, 2025.
If we vote it like
But
this
we would-
today. If we
right.
don't vote it, they expire
At the end of this
December
year.
2024.
Mhm. But we would actually put the RFP out mid-year, because this process is a very long process, because there's many different facets of it. So not only are we just doing a review of the respondents in the RFP on the financial end to make sure that they're a sound financial institution to which we want to place our money to ensure that we're going to get it back when we need it and not lose it, but then to also convene the review committee and have them process that information and make recommendations. So the process on its own, to just get to the point where we're authorizing people to be depositories or institutions to be depositories, could be a few months. So
Do you recall how many responded 2 years ago?
I think we had 10 respondents. There might have been one that we disqualified, and because they may have not given us a CRA plan at all, community reinvestment plan at all. But generally, there are 9 that we actually approved. So I think we had 10 respond, and then we approved 9.
So by giving this extension, we'd be basically kind of giving this working committee time to change the request for proposal?
Yep, we would need to change the request for a proposal and then potentially change any parts of the ordinance or prior legislation to be able to enact those changes in the RFP.
And then when would we expect to see the RFP go out? What would be the timeline?
June or July.
Great. I think that answers all my questions. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Any further questions? Councilman Coghill.
Thank you. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? So when, let me just ask you this, who has the lion's share of our deposits? Is it PNC? Is it safe to say
Well,
PNC?
no, it isn't. They
Okay,
do
yeah,
have a fair portion
Okay,
of it,
right.
but there's also, the lion's share would go to the depositories that we would be considered active depositories. So
Yeah.
that would be PNC, FNB,
Okay,
and
FNB, okay,
Huntington
good.
Bank.
Yeah,
So
right,
that's
okay,
where
It's
our
where-
we have
there are
2
three
general
bigs,
funds. There
right?
are 3
Yeah,
big
right,
banks,
all
and
right.
where the lion's share of the money sits, it's split amongst the 3.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I think Councilman Lavelle answered most of my questions, and I guess, but piggybacking off what Councilman Lavelle said, or President Lavelle said, was those who are best partners. So when we say best partners, it's not necessarily the interest income that we get back. It's what their plan is and what they give back to the city of Pittsburgh. Is that safe?
Yes, how they
Okay,
take our
yeah.
taxpayer dollars and put it out there for our taxpayers to actually access. So, and we don't always necessarily get money in the way of interest earnings, but we could
Gotcha.
receive discounts on banking fees. So if we
Okay, so-
keep balances in accounts, we get a trade-off there.
Yeah, so we can't invest our capital budget money. We can't invest it as an investment strategy.
can.
Oh, we can? So we do that.
Yeah,
we
we
do
do.
get returns on that.
Yep.
Okay, so that's $600 million. We get a return.
Yeah.
Big return on that, right? But we're always constantly dipping into it and paying for things, obviously.
Yes.
Right. Okay, no, that's great. So basically, we do business with the banks that are important to Pittsburgh and do good things for Pittsburgh. not necessarily judging on our interest back.
Well, if they're a sound financial institution, we can do business with
Right.
them, but we may not give them a
Understood.
lot of business
Understood.
based
Understood.
on their performance,
Right.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Kale Smith. Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1069, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Opposed? Affirmative recommendation for Bill 1069. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
That moves us on to invoices. Do I have a motion on invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? We do not have any pertinent notes from our council budget office on invoices. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of invoices, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Invoices are approved. That moves us on to interdepartmental transfers. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of interdepartmental transfers as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Interdepartmental transfers are approved. That moves us on to P cards. Do I have a motion on P cards?
Motion. Second.
We do have some notes on P cards. There are 4 PayPal charges for which invoices have been attached to the communication to council. 3 of the charges are from Parks and Recreation for Wild Flying Pigs production related to large-scale story sets for the Carnegie Library Summer Reading Extravaganza. And the final PayPal charge is for public safety for catering from Tanya's Catering for an incident command training. Any further discussion on P cards? Seeing none, all those in favor of P cards, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. P cards are approved. That moves us on to Public Safety and Wellness Committee chaired by Councilman Coghill.
Bill 1058, resolution authorizing the mayor, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, and the Department of Public Safety to enter into an agreement or agreements with the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for the purpose of receiving grant funds from the COVID SFR local law enforcement support in the amount of $200,000 for records management system software and training and data integration.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1058, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. That moves us on to Public Works and Infrastructure Committee chaired by Councilperson Warwick.
Bill 1070, resolution authorizing the Director of the Department of Finance and the Director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh to enter into certain temporary construction easements on certain properties in the Second Ward of the city in order to advance the Smithfield Street project. Costs for these temporary construction easements shall not exceed $90,000, reimbursable at 80%.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill
Bridge.
1070, please indicate by saying aye.
Okay.
Aye. Affirmative recommendation, Bill 1071.
Bill 1071, resolution authorizing the issuance of a warrant in favor of MC Enterprises for the purpose of an interior renovation at Police Zone 4 and providing for the payment of the cost thereof in the amount not to exceed $5,801 over 1 year.
Motion to approve, brief discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, so the reason I bring it up for discussion is because we've been having this conversation around the combining of zone 4 and 5 in a new space, et cetera, et cetera. But this is, the kitchen's really they need this kitchen today. So, and it's not very much money, but so that's why this is sort of something that needs to happen just for the comfort of the officers working there.
Thank you.
That's all.
Any further discussion? Councilman Coghill.
No, I'll just add to that. That's one of the ones we toured, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, right. No, absolutely. Anything we can do to improve the conditions there, it's a Band-Aid, is pretty much what you said, so, okay.
Yeah. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1071, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Affirmative recommendation. That moves us on to Land Use and Economic Development Committee, chaired by Councilman Wilson.
Deferred paper, Bill 959, ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title 9 Zoning Code, Article 6, Development Standards, Chapter 919, Signs, Section 919.03, Non-Advertising Signs, to regulate the use of non-advertising signs for major public destination facilities in the RIV-NS district.
Motion to hold 3 weeks, and I'd just like to make a brief comment on that.
Second.
So Councilman Wilson for the brief comment, followed by further discussion.
I just want to say that I thought it was a very productive meeting that my office, Councilman Lavelle's office, Department of City Planning, Kyle Chinopoli from the mayor's office, and oh boy, hopefully I don't forget. Oh, I'm sorry, we had Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney, 2 representatives from them, and I just want to make sure that I would let everyone know on council that we had a very productive conversation about what essentially is what the zoning administrator calls pre-application meeting. Not technically a pre-application meeting, but basically we got to a place where we had a meeting to talk about the bill and some revisions of making sure these revisions would make sure that whenever it does arrive, when we do send it to planning for report and recommendation, that there's not too much misunderstanding of what the intentions are. So we're gonna need definitely another 3 weeks to figure that out, and possibly more. But we want to make sure that we continue having as many edits to the current bill as possible, so we can actually have a productive conversation on what we're trying to achieve here.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cale Smith, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, overall, I wish we'd revisit the sign. We had put in legislation before, and I wish we'd revisit that a little bit and figure out ways to help. We have some people that have to, they want some signage, they need it for their businesses, they need it for their churches, but yet our sign stuff is so prohibitive. So just overall, I'm glad that Councilman Wilson's working on this, but on another note about signage in general, I just wish we'd revisit that a little bit. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I'll just say I have Pastor Pugh, who owns a church, Jerusalem Baptist Church on Steuben Street, who cannot put a sign up for his church. His daughter's Ebony Pugh for Pittsburgh Public School District, and they're having a lot of issues, and so we're working around it to figure it out for him, but it shouldn't be that complicated. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of a 3-week hold? Is that?
3 weeks, yeah.
Did you make actually?
Yeah, I said motion to.
Yeah, I think I
hold
seconded
3
it.
weeks.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
And I just discussed over the 3 week.
Thank you. All those in favor of a 3-week hold, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Bill will be held for 3 weeks. That moves us on to new papers, Bill 1072.
Bill 1072, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Office of Management and Budget to enter into an agreement or agreements with agencies to provide emergency shelter services, street outreach services, rental assistance, and housing relocation and stabilization services and/or data collection activities as associated with 2024 Emergency Solutions Grant, funds at a cost not to exceed $1,195,104.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Second with discussion? Councilman Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I hate saying the words point of order because it feels so like I'm trying to insert myself. But I do just want to, I'm curious if we should read any of the other bills that are related to emergency service grants. I see one. Any other ESG grants that I'm missing? 1072. Okay, sometimes there's multiple. So anyway, if you can come. If you see one, I just think maybe we should just read them together, but I'm not seeing it. I thought there were. I'm mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All good. Appreciate it. Welcome. Thank you.
How y'all doing? I like my soul system. Assistant Director, Community Development.
And I'm Josh Roland, Program Supervisor.
Thank you both for coming. I just want to, if you could just brief council on what these dollars we spent on.
All right. With the Emergency Solutions Grant, the ESG funds, those are used to help those who are those who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. It's a co-managed program that we do with the Department of Human Services. It's been operated like that for quite some time. What the funds will be used for is to fund different nonprofits to provide, as she was saying, emergency shelter services, street outreach, and rapid rehousing programs. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for going through that. The street outreach that you are referencing, what can you help us understand who that is?
Actually, the city itself is not funding the street outreach organization. The county is, but street outreach services are still a part of ESG services.
Who is that?
CHS, I believe, is who they're funding. But like I said, that's the county. We're not funding street outreach services. With the grants we're funding, we are funding.
Yeah, what are the grants?
Yep, hold on.
Sorry.
Nope, you're fine.
Just that it's in the title of the bill. It just so that's what ESG grants could be spent on.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you could just say who the providers are. So you, in your office, are not like you're doing great work. You're doing what needs to happen with, funds in a timely manner. I'm just going to the table just to make sure that we all have the information about what the city does to provide services to people outside, because I know myself every day there is concerns about what's happening outside.
No, you're fine. I did not open the link. That's what I'm trying to do, is open the link to give you all the organizations.
Are you looking for the link for the full text of the bill?
Yeah,
if it's helpful, I have it in front of me. Would you like me to chime in? Okay.
Yeah.
So subrecipients include Pittsburgh Mercy Health Systems,
Beth Haven,
East End Cooperative Ministry, Family Links, Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania, Allegheny County Department of Human Services. There's 2 separate line items for different purposes, and Auberly.
Right. Now, Auberly will provide our rapid rehousing programs. The other organizations that the councilwoman just mentioned are providing street outreach emergency shelter services.
Do you have numbers on like how many people that might serve?
That I had a feeling that might come up. So in our CAPER last year for the date range for our CAPER last year, and just so you know, our CAPER is a federal reporting tool that we have to submit to HUD for how our funds are used. For the period from April 1st of 2022 through September 30th of 2023, the number of persons served through emergency shelter entry exit, total persons served were 1,861. Total households served 1,292. For permanent rapid rehousing, that was 64 persons served and 51 households. For homelessness prevention, it was 65 persons served and 31 households.
Can you make sure that all council members have that information you just read off?
Yeah.
At the, by the end of the day, if you could.
Yeah, I can't. I actually, our CAPER is on our website. Okay. It's a very large document.
Maybe just share the link.
I was going to say I was going to share the link.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cale Smith.
Thank you. I heard you mention CHS, and they're not funded by the city?
No, not by the city, by the county. Yes, ma'am, by the county.
They're just funded by the county?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a reason why we don't support that? Because they actually oversee the Wood Street Commons and the food pantry in the Wood Street Commons.
Yeah, that is just the way the services work out. Like I said, this was being a joint funded program by the city and the county. The county takes some share and the city takes some share, and the county decided to take that share. At one point, a few years ago, we actually did fund CHS for rapid rehousing services, and I believe some emergency shelter, but since then, We've just transitioned and let the county use their dollars to fund CHS.
Yeah. It's not that I don't think the county should, but I think that this is one service that's actually in the city,
Well,
that they're providing in the city, within the city.
And I can understand that too. One thing I will also mention about ESG services, which is really good about the program, is the individuals, they can cross boundaries. City people can actually be served
Right.
outside of the city boundaries and the county boundaries, and from county can be
Right.
served in the city, so vice versa. That's a
Right,
good
I
part about the
understand that,
program.
yeah. I do understand that, but I do think that this is a program that I've actually been asked why it's not receiving city dollars. So I wanted to make sure that I brought this up because it's a concern for the people who are involved in it. It's a concern for the people who live around CHS. They want to know that the city has a buy-in to it as well. But I do think that the county dollars are great to have used there. But overall, who manages or who oversees what's happening here to make sure that they're doing the things that they're supposed to be doing?
We have different program coordinators on our team that oversee the different grants between the city and the nonprofits.
So, because here's what worries me. We have a lot of people that, we had a center, and I think you know about in our district, it was the Justin Plaza, where even the employees that were getting the grants to do the work were afraid to go in the building because the people were being attacked, things that were happening inside. And so we have a lot of residents afraid, a lot of people afraid to be a resident in those facilities too. So I just want to make sure that we're not only just given a contract, we're actually providing a safe, healthy environment for people, and that we're providing the services, if it's food pantry, if it's clothing, if it's housing, that people are doing that in the best way possible for the people that desperately need it.
Our department doesn't necessarily get into all those other aspects.
I know, that's why I wondered who does, though.
That would be more of an
because
internal.
they actually ended up taking the contract away from the place up in Justin. They took the contract away because they started giving medication outside of the facility because they were afraid to go in the facility. They started doing all sorts of things that started happening that they finally, after 3 years, took the contract away. But it was a lot of complaints by a lot of residents. And I think it's the way we manage some of the things that we do that makes people have a little bit of anxiety about us doing anything in any of the neighborhoods. Where if we did it right, people shouldn't even notice. Like in Squirrel Hill, I think they do it. I think Councilman Warwick mentioned a place that does a lot of great work there, and it's because they do it right. They're surrounded by resources. There's great organizations that do a lot of things to make sure things are happening right there. So I just want to make sure when we're doing something to help people, we're doing it right and making sure that we're actually providing safe, healthy places for people to get the help that they need. That's all, and for the community. That's all. I think we better look into see how we can track those and do some kind of performance.
In
audit or
terms,
something.
okay, so in terms of safety for the staff and
The
and
actual
the
residents that
participants.
that are going to seek housing or whatever services they're getting. My brother volunteers at the Lawrenceville Food Bank every week, or every month, whatever it is. But even hearing his stories about the things that he wishes that we would do things a little bit differently. He lives in Councilwoman Strasburger's district, though.
All right, food for thought.
Yeah.
Thank you. Council President Charlin.
Thank you for being here today. So I just want to make sure that I have this right. So ESG grants are federal grants that maybe they go through another intermediary, but come to us at the end of the day, and then we determine how to disperse them.
Correct.
They can be used for the purposes that you mentioned, but we are using them. We have a handful of proposals that both of you mentioned. We're using this primarily for rapid rehousing.
I keep wanting to say streets.
Yeah.
Emergency shelter and rapid rehousing services, yes.
Okay. So the question that I have is about the street outreach.
Okay.
Are any of the awardees going to be doing street outreach?
That's why I was saying the county's handling the street outreach.
The county handles street outreach.
Yes.
Okay. There's some room to improve there on the county's end. But okay, so we're doing the rehousing projects there, and the Auberly project that we've been discussing recently, that is not this is a different Auberly project. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Do we figure out a number on how many beds or how many units, how many individuals we can serve with this?
You mean with the ESG projects?
Yes.
When we set it up, it's a little bit different, so the county comes up with those numbers and actually.
A rough estimate would be helpful. You don't, I'm not going to hold you it's 30, if it's 300.
Ironically, had a discussion like this yesterday with somebody at the county. All right, so the way it's looking is set up right now about 8 one-bedroom units, 12 two-bedroom units, 4 three-bedroom units for a total of 24. And those were numbers I actually just got from the county discussion we had with just had yesterday.
Okay.
And that's just for the emergency shelter part.
And in ESG and OMB's county's mind on rapid rehousing, how long is a stay in rapid rehousing?
We can provide funding for up to 1 year.
1 year.
Yep.
Okay.
In certain cases, the funding can go a little bit longer, up to 2 years, but the organization would have to ask for special permission for the individual to receive that type of funding to go longer.
Okay. And the ESG grants, if I understand correctly, they came out of relief money. Is that no? They're not related to that at all.
Okay, sorry. All our funding that we receive, everything is from the HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban.
Right. But this is a program that will continue.
Yeah, we've been funding this program for years.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Although, to your credit, there was special ESG CV funds that you might be thinking about too. So there were COVID funds that came out of that too, but that funding has since been spent.
All right, that might be where I'm confused. All right,
no, you're fine. You're not confused. There's a lot of funding going around.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you keeping it all straight for us. So thank you. All right. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further first round? Councilwoman Gross.
Thank you all for being here. It occurs to me we've had talks about homelessness and council committees on it, and been trying to improve housing, interim housing, emergency housing for 2 years now. And I think it was an important turning point for us when we realized that we had always been funding only congregate shelter, and that we really, in the gap in our system within the county, but especially within the city, is in the bridge housing, where people can live with a door that they can shut, with their own belongings, where they can be stable, not kicked out at 7 o'clock in the morning and have to be outdoors all day to just re-enter in the afternoon, in order to get their feet back, in order to move into permanent independent housing. And so in this funding, do you know which of the dollars lines, in my sheet, and you can see it on Legistar, there's a chart, right, of the recipients. Do you know if which or if any of these are more single room occupancy and less congregate shelter? I'm thinking Bethlehem Haven might actually be.
Yeah, I would think Beth Haven. The Goodwill is more of a congregate shelter. This is why I need that list that she was talking about.
I have the Legistar list.
Thank you. Josh has got me. EECM, I would say, is more. Actually, EECM, their facilities have doors. Family Links, I believe their facilities have doors as well. So the majority of these would have doors, whereas Goodwill, as I said, with the shelter we fund through Goodwill, that's more of a open facility.
Thank you. That's really important, I think, in our conversation, that we have places where we've even heard public testimony from people who've been living in shelters, right, that they can be chaotic. It's indoor, not outdoor, but people may not feel more safe. Certainly their belongings may not be more safe. So having these spaces that, again, where you're not fighting for a cot, you're not, just 6 inches away from the person next to you, where you have a little more safety and security, where you can kind of get your life back and rebuild it. And so I think you told us the funding streams that we're voting on today can provide these basically housing costs for up to 1 year.
Well,
Did I say that right?
I was just going to say with the housing, the housing cost, I was actually referring to the Arberly, who's our rapid rehousing provider earlier.
Okay.
But the shelter, everything would still go for 1 year. It's just that rapid rehousing, we could provide funding past 1 year.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll just mention for council and for the public, there was a pretty good piece, I think, on Kate G. Marisi on WESA about the increase in investment by the county and by some nonprofit actors in more single-room occupancy in the city.
Okay.
Always take advantage of having the opportunity to talk about single-room occupancy. Council members have heard me talk about it before. And so I'm glad to see that there's more single-room occupancy rooms coming back online. Council has been asking for that for some 2 years, I think. And just again, as a reminder, if you're in these bridge housing situations, it's often because there's up to a year waiting list to get permanent housing, right? So because of the lack of the deeply affordable housing that people can move into, then there's a backlog into the bridge housing. Because all the bridge housing is full, then there's a backlog into the shelters. And because all the shelters have been full, we have more people outdoors, right? And so we need more space in all of the kind of places where people can be indoors while they're trying to get back into permanent housing. So, all right, that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any further questions? First round. Second round, Councilman Wilson.
Thanks. I think I do this on an annual basis where I just ask you how much we get, how much the county gets with ESG.
We got 1.195 million. The county got a little less, but still over $1 million.
Why does the county get less?
It's just the way funding. This is allocation from HUD, so it's just the way the allocations come from HUD.
Okay. But the narrative that we get less than the county, what are those dollars that's in that narrative? Do you understand the question?
You're just talking about where their funding necessarily went, if I'm understanding you correct.
Department of Human Services.
Yeah,
we don't have one in the city, primarily because we're not a COC.
Yeah, continuum of care.
Mm-hmm. We're not allocated those dollars. The designated place is the county, and they've created DHS to acquire those funds or accept those funds. So like that's a designated place. So how much funding?
Well, they get two separate pots. The ESG pot is separate from, like, let's say the COC funding that the county gets. The COC funding is usually around $24 to $30 million. But
$24 to $30 million that the county gets.
Mm-hmm.
So our $1 million is literally a drop in the bucket.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Like one drop in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
One out of like 1/30th of the funds.
Right.
And most of those funds, the $30 million, can be spent on what we're talking about here.
Yes, and through the continuum of care, they also fund a variety of different providers to provide homeless services as well. Some of the same providers we fund, and different ones because, of course, the county has a bigger area than the city, of course.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1072, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Thank you very much. That moves us on to Bill 1073.
Bill 1073, resolution providing for an agreement or agreements with the Jewish Healthcare Foundation to provide administration and operating expenses, housing and housing-related supportive services to persons with HIV/AIDS and their families at a total cost not to exceed $1,409,836.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1073, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1074.
Bill 1074, resolution providing for an agreement or agreements with the Urban League of Pittsburgh for the implementation and administration of the Housing Counseling Program and related costs in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1074, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1075.
Bill 1075, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Office of Management and Budget to enter into an agreement or agreements with various community-based organizations for the implementation of the 2024 Neighborhood Economic Development Program and to provide for the payment of the cost thereof not to exceed $720,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1075, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1076.
Bill 1076, resolution further amending Resolution 857 of 2023, effective December 27, 2023, as amended, entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving a 2024 Capital Budget, the 2024 Community Development Program, and a 2024 through 2029 Capital Improvement Program, so as to grant $540,000 to specific public service grant projects and authorize a subsequent agreement or agreements.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Discussion, Councilman Wilson.
Thanks. Members, you'll see an amendment here, but unfortunately, I'm not seeing all the changes that I think should be made. I think there's further changes that have to be made, so I think I'm going to motion for 1 week hold.
Second.
I will motion for 1 week hold.
Second.
Discussion on the 1 week hold. Seeing none, all those in favor of a 1 week hold on Bill 1076, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Bill will be held for 1 week. Bill 1077.
Bill 1077, resolution further amending Resolution 857 of 2023, effective December 27, 2023, as amended, entitled Resolution Adopting and Approving the 2024 Capital Budget, the proposed 2024 Community Development Program, and the 2024 through 2029 Capital Improvement Program by decreasing CDBG personnel by $102,010 and decreasing Emergency Solutions Grant by $4,896, increasing housing opportunities for persons with AIDS by $309,836, and decreasing Home Investment Partnerships Program by $504,431. These changes are made in response to program allocations by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and come at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1077, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks.
That moves us on to Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services Committee, chaired by Councilwoman Cale Smith.
Bill 1084, resolution authorizing renaming Ream Recreation Center to Dunlap Family Center.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I think we have to hold for a hearing.
Yes.
Motion to hold for a hearing.
Second.
Sorry.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Can I just say real quickly? Go ahead, you want to say it?
No, I just want to say it's a great idea. I know he was instrumental in keeping that pool open, and he's done some really great things as to St. Clair Hospital. I don't know if you've seen the wing up there that he's. So he was a really, really good man. We lost him a little while ago. I was friends, I guess I could say, with him. He started out, he was a roofing contractor. Did you know that?
The world's largest roofing manufacturer.
Yes.
Everyone thinks he just owned the Lamont.
Oh,
The Lamont
yeah,
was something
that
he did
was
for his
a sidekick.
wife as just like a little hobby. But they have both since passed away. But I do want to say that John Massolero, who runs Ream Rec, had asked me to do this. We're going to name the place, the whole building, the garden after Val Lowe, who I think you all met. She does a program there for the community, a garden for the community, and she ties it in with domestic violence. She's a domestic violence survivor. She ties it in with that program that she runs, and then the Massolero Gym. So the gym will be named after Massolero, but the actual building itself will be Mr. Dunlap, who also has even though he passed away, his family still runs his foundation, and they give a lot of money across the city of Pittsburgh. So it'll be nice to recognize what they did for Mount Washington and Duquesne Heights. Thank you. That's it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of holding Bill 1084 for a public hearing, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Bill will be held. That moves us on to Innovation, Performance, Asset Management, and Technology Committee chaired by Councilwoman Gross.
Bill 1059, Resolution amending Resolution 850 of 2021, which authorized the City of Pittsburgh and the Department of City Planning to enter into an agreement with Melca to provide a building benchmarking management platform software solution by adding funding for contract year 2024 and increasing the total cost by $11,250 for a new total cost not to exceed $91,250.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1059, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1060.
Bill 1060, Resolution amending Resolution 777 of 2023, authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Innovation and Performance on behalf of the City of Pittsburgh to enter into an agreement or agreements or amendments thereto with Risk Factor LLC for subscription to Risk Factor database for all data and hazard layers for all perils and all parcels in the City of Pittsburgh, enabling support of city departments in planning for weather-related hazards by increasing the approved amount by $25,000 for an amended total cost not to exceed $45,000 over 2 years.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1060, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Affirmative recommendation. That moves us on to Intergovernmental and Educational Affairs Committee chaired by Councilman Mosley.
Bill 1061, Resolution providing for the execution of a cooperation agreement or agreements with the URA of Pittsburgh for the performance of certain work in connection with the 2024-2025 Community Development Block Grant Program and providing for the payment of the cost thereof not to exceed $6,241,000 for all council districts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1061, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1062.
Bill 1062, Resolution authorizing a cooperation agreement or agreements with the URA of Pittsburgh, designating URA as the city's agent for administration of the 2024-2025 Home Investments Partnership Program at a cost not to exceed $1,995,569, all council districts.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1062, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1063.
Bill 1063, Resolution authorizing a cooperation agreement or agreements providing for the transfer of funds not to exceed $29,870 to the City of Pittsburgh Equipment Leasing Authority for the purchase of vehicles for use by the Office of Community Health and Safety. This expenditure is associated with grant funds that the city will receive from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, grant funds.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1063, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1064.
Bill 1064, Resolution approving execution of a contract for disposition by sale of land between the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Land Bank for the sale of Block 23F, Lots 198 and 199 in the 25th Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, Carrington Street and Alpine Avenue, Council District Number 1, at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1064, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1065.
Bill 1065, Resolution authorizing the Pittsburgh Land Bank to acquire all the city's right, title, and interest, if any, in and into the publicly owned properties in the First Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, designated in the Deed Registry Office of Allegheny County as Block 11K, Lots 271-3 and 271-10, 2013 and 2005 Boulevard of the Allies, Council District 6, at no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1065, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1066.
Bill 1066, Resolution authorizing the Pittsburgh Land Bank to acquire all the city's right, title, and interest, if any, into the publicly owned property in the 12th Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, designated in the Deed Registry Office of Allegheny County as Block 125M, Lot 297, Hamilton Avenue, Council District Number 9, no cost to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Councilwoman Cale Smith.
Just brief discussion. I see that the land bank, the last few interactions have been in the districts of the members that serve on the land bank board, and I just want to make sure that they expand, work with council members to see what else they might want to add to it. And I do know that the council members are really good at doing their development stuff, but sometimes there's things I'd like for the URA or the land bank to also look at in my district, and I'm sure the others have some stuff too. So maybe it'd be helpful to have like a meeting or something to discuss some of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Wilson.
Sally Stadelman, will you please come to the table?
I think this is going to get nasty. I'm ready.
Good morning. Sally Stadelman, manager of the Pittsburgh Land Bank. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Sally. I just want to make sure we're being as transparent as possible, because I do think that we should be doing as much as we can all over the city of Pittsburgh. So if you could just walk us through the efforts that we're doing and how, other districts will be served.
Yeah.
Sorry, all districts will be served.
Yes, absolutely. There's many places I could start. I'm very, very eager to be doing work in other council districts throughout the city. Our main challenges right now are just capacity. We're working on our inventory has reached 65 parcels. And so we've been focused on our clean outs, quiet title actions, completing that work. It is a capacity issue to continue to expand, but we're very, very eager to do so. Two of the properties that were just approved on the Boulevard of the Allies, those will be structures 5 and 6 in our pilot residential rehab program. And those are properties that are going to be listed for owner occupants to apply to rehab. And they'll be listed as is. We do kind of a clean out, a review of the property to make sure that it's still structurally sound and that our buyers can see where the problems are. And that is a program that would be very easy to expand into other districts and helps us keep properties off of the demolition list and makes more property available for owner occupants. And I would really love to get started in other parts of the city. So I'm ready when you are, and I just need, I think one additional staffer would allow us to really expand that quite a bit. And we just need to get through budget season. So it's going to be a busy couple of months.
Just to add to that, I have had conversations with trying how to, fit more into the budget here, or I guess not more because we can't get more money right now, but to allocate funds to the land bank for staff. But recent news came that we are able to use ARPA funding through 2026 for staff. So we'll have to have further conversations of what that means, because we would want staff not to just end their employment in 2026. So I'm looking to have a more robust conversation in terms of long-term financials and what that looks like, with how funds are, there's a lot of different funds here. A lot of different operating parts. For instance, like we even, the land bank pays for property from the city. So, we also have to sell property for a certain amount, but we have to figure out, it's like a small business, like a startup. So this startup was lagging for, some time, and rightly so, because of, different agreements and stuff that weren't in place. And so we're getting our feet under us. And so I think that there's a good opportunity here that we can see down the road to 2026 in terms of staff and how to staff up. But that longer conversation of past 26 is going to be very necessary. And, I guess what I can say is I was fortunate to have a community group in my district that was very eager to, I'm not even sure if they're on the property list now, but that they were just eager to, have a for sale program. So and that's the Community Alliance of Spring Garden East Touchstone. So that's the only one I actually know of that like is currently being like very proactive. You could go through how other properties come into the land bank's coffers and then quickly,
right.
not in there. We're not trying to hold on the properties, but I just wanted to, be a little more transparent about what's happening. I know these properties are moving through council here, so I just wanted to open up that conversation, and bring Sally to the table if anyone wants to ask questions.
I just had a quick follow-up.
Oh, I have my hand.
Yes, Councilman. So we have Councilman Mosley for first round. We're still on first round. You'll get you second round, Councilwoman.
Yeah, Director Stadelman, thank you for coming here, and I want to thank the Councilwoman for raising the point. I think we all share, interest in, equitably, focusing, the efforts of recycling land and dealing with abandonment and vacancy and blight in every corner of the city. I know in my short time of being on the land bank, I know there have been a number of parcels that we have began the recycling process with outside of districts 1, 6, and 9. If I'm not mistaken, I know there has been some parcels we began that recycling process. I believe in 2, 3, and 5. Can you speak to any of those in particular, and maybe even talk about your thoughts on how we could potentially build on those recycling efforts in those parts of the city?
Yeah, and in Councilmember Kel Smith's district, we have, I want to say 14 parcels, and we're working with Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation. I understand you received some feedback on, we put up a notice of sale sign on the property. So we have, I want to say 12 single-family homes. So the land bank, we are clearing them out, we're clearing the title, and then between probably December and March, as those titles, those quiet title actions are completed, we will start to sell those to PHDC, who will then be rehabbing them within the next year and listing them on the market for an 80% or below AMI buyer. So that's, some of our favorite programming to work with PHDC. So let's see, did you say 2, 3, 5? Or are those my numbers?
And that's only if my memory serves me correctly.
Yes, and so in Councilman Charlin's district, we also have a couple of PHDC properties, and we did a walkthrough a couple weeks back, and I would really love to get into District 3 and 4 and do those walkthroughs, and it's really just a matter of we have data that tells us where those properties are, and we want to start with the city inventory, and it's just the time to go out, walk through, evaluate, make sure that we can get them back out on the market, and we've got the budget to do it. And it's having the time to do that, and that is really the next step to moving those along. So I think we have this couple in District 3, though, that PHDC has been able to support, apply for, and support the rehab there. They're coming along and moving along with the batch in District 2. And then we have Marsden Street in District 5. That we are working on clearing the title so we can get those transferred to Rising Tide and get the site remediated and have that ready for a site assemblage. And I know we've been talking to Hazelwood about a couple of other properties. One of our very first sales, though, was a completing Hazelwood Initiative's playground that they built in Hazelwood, and we were able to complete the assemblage in District 5. So there's a lot less city-owned structures, though, in D5 than what we had initially expected. So done a couple reviews of that data. But that's it. It's not a super challenging program. It's just that time to schedule with the city, get into the property, do the review, and figure out what that budget needs to be per house. So we're prepared to maintain it and address any immediate needs as we hold it to clear the title and then list it for sale on the market.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
First round, Councilman Coghill.
Yep, thank you. So Sally, what I'm hearing you say is you have 65 parcels. All structures on them, or what's
No,
the ratio?
it's a mix of both.
Mix
Yeah.
of both, yeah. So the ones with structures, that's what's keeping you busy right now, kind of deciding, having to follow through as to the fate of whatever that property might be. Is that, it's eating up time, is that right?
It's a mix, many things.
Yeah, right,
But yeah, part of it is the maintenance of the structure, just all of the small pieces of building out that programming. What kind of locks are we putting on the doors? How are we giving our contractors access? Reviewing those kinds of budgets, working with our partners who are completing stabilization work.
Right. I love to see transactions coming through us, and you have 65 parcels now. We went 20 years without one, and you have 65 now. So I think that's great work. I do worry about how you're going to sustain yourself in the future. Councilman Wilson, I'll support anything, any which way we could sustain and make sure she gets the additional person, staffer that you may need in order to, progress and keep moving in the direction you're moving. So let me ask you this. When you sell a property, do you get the proceeds? Where does that go? Does it go in our general fund, or does it go?
Yeah, I think the nice thing about the land bank, we'll never be a totally self-sustaining organization, right? Because our job is to take on the lemons and turn them into lemonade. Right. But we do recuperate costs from sales proceeds.
A certain percentage you are helping fund your own business, we'll say. Yeah, right. Okay, good. I have no doubt you'll make your way over to 4th District. I look forward to identifying structures in my district and taking a walk through. I love doing that. Let's see what we can salvage and see what we can't. But
we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll wait for your call. As soon as you get this business taken care of, let's go make some visits. I look forward to that. But yeah, I think you're going to need funding. I think you're going to need additional resources moving forward. And if we could use ARPA money, I'm more than willing to designate that, or however, if we have to use our general fund, it doesn't matter. We need, I think, you to keep moving in the direction you're moving, and I think you're going to make a big positive difference in the end. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further first round? Second round. Oh, Council President Lavelle.
Sure, just a quick comment. When you do the walkthroughs of the city-owned properties, each time we do that requires an individual sort of relationship with the city in order to be able to access those structures, correct?
Right. It's city finance and DPW have staff time that it takes their staff time to come out and open those structures up at this point in time.
Just bringing it up because in order to sort of expedite the efficiency of the land bank, it's probably worth us having a conversation about entering into a cooperation agreement between, and it's probably URA Land Bank City, that would then allow them to be able to access those properties on a continual basis, as opposed to having to wait for finance, wait for the Department of Public Works, who are already overstretched themselves.
Absolutely.
So that we can more expeditiously follow through this process. So that's a conversation we can continue follow up on, but I just thought it was worthwhile mentioning that for our purposes.
Thank you. Councilwoman, second round, Councilwoman Kell Smith.
Thank you. I first want to thank you for the housing in Elliott, but I do want to say that, with housing in Elliott, that and the work that Richard Snipe and his team does is amazing, and the community's always really grateful whenever they renovate homes. They use materials and things that most people couldn't even afford to do, and they maintain affordability in our area. This will be the 3rd stabilization program we've done in our area. To maintain housing and to keep housing. But I do want to first say a couple things. There's also, first of all, Councilman Wilson is my appointee on the Land Bank Board, so if I didn't think that they were doing good work, I would certainly say something or step in. But I do think that they are doing good work, and I don't want to minimize what my colleagues are doing there, or even that the work that they're doing in their district. It's understandable, but I think because they are there, they may have more conversations with you. So I want to make sure that we have some of those same conversations, because my interest in what I've heard from my district loud and clear is not that we don't need a lot of more affordability. We need to do some of the work we're doing with Richard Snipe, maintaining the affordability we have, but yet also we need some kind of market rate housing, because we need some stabilization in our area, which we don't have. And I mean, the studies have said that, people have said it, the community's sick of it. They just want to hear something different. But I would like to see us look at some commercial properties in places like Crafton Heights. We're buying just a few properties or wind gap or short tiers would make such a huge difference into those communities. And I mean, I see us investing in a lot of big places in downtown and other places that typically do get investment and may not be the investment, that's needed for now, but for our area, just a little bit of money could make a huge change. So I want to say that, and I do support having additional staff and helping you in whatever way we can to do some of those things. But I think it's also a conversation with the URA. I think the Avenues of Hope is something I've been questioning a lot of lately, and I think that's another conversation for another day. But the agreement that Council President Lavelle brought up, the only reason that agreement is being held right now is because the only thing I've asked for is for council to be able to see the agreement and the contract before it's signed. So as soon as we agree to that, I'm happy to move that forward. But council has to see that we have given up too much of our power, too much of our authority, and we have to have some way to see what is going on. And we're being held accountable for whatever's happening in the city. So when people see all this stuff and people start questioning stuff, we're getting ourselves dragged right into the middle of it because we are giving away our authority and our power. So I do think it's important for us to make sure that we just see the agreement in the contract. And if there's some way we can address that issue, I'm happy to work through that. I just want to make sure that that's clear. That's the only thing that's holding that up. So that's it for me. But thank you for your work. I do appreciate it. I know that you've done some good things in our area too. And the food bank, which I almost had a fit about, I want to tell you, is really, they just got $100,000 from the Hillman Foundation. So the Hillman Foundation has been very good to District 2, so I want to thank them for their generosity.
Great. I'm so excited to do more work in District 2 and get back to my community organizations I haven't seen in so long.
Yeah, that's right. Your family lives in District 2. Let me just say that. Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just a quick follow-up. So I completely agree with our council president's suggestion as to cut that bureaucracy and be able to just go at your own will. But who is like your professional there, your general contractor, to say this house is worth saving or not? Is that a nonprofit that supplies that, or do you count on Public Works for that?
Depends on the property.
Okay.
I have some of the community development corporations I work with have that capacity, and so they're walking through the house first to make sure that it's salvageable. PHDC has all of that, right? They're doing those full rehabs, so they're able to walk through. They do, everyone's required to walk through the house and make sure, write up that budget, make sure that it's salvageable. Right. Rising Tide Partners is another one.
Right. So when you walk through a house, there's somebody there who knows buildings, and they recommend at that time probably, like, this is worth saving or not.
Right. And then I also have the URA's QC&I staff will also walk through and provide me with that overview as well. And I will say it's, and it's a pretty straightforward formula of if you've got a collapsing foundation, there's no roof, and then you compare that to the strength of the market. That's the really the basic calculation that we're making is it clear this is going to get torn down tomorrow? If not, can the market support the amount of rehab that it needs
you can almost tell from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Well, you would think, but so many of these houses, the back, it's always the back that's fallen off.
Yeah. Right. Okay. That's all. I'll be glad to pitch in and help out with that when we go into my district. So thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion on 1066? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 1066, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Affirmative recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Thank you, Sally.
That concludes our standing committee's agenda. We have some meeting announcements. This afternoon at 2:30 p.m., Council will hold a cablecast post-agenda relative to Section 8 program as it relates to landlords, chaired by Councilperson Warwick. Thursday, October 31st at noon, Council will hold a cablecast public hearing on Bill 985 as it relates to historic designation of Pittsburgh Glass Studio. Speaker registration will close at 10:30 a.m. the day of the hearing. Next week, Council will hold their regular meeting and standing committees meeting on Monday, November 4th, and Wednesday. Sorry, this is confusing. We're going to have our meetings next week on Monday, November 4th, and then our standing committee on Wednesday, November 6th at 10 a.m. respectively. Speaker registration will close at 9 a.m. the morning of each meeting.
Well, that's sorry.
I'll get real quick. To register to speak these meetings and hearings, please fill out the sign-up form on the council meeting webpage by the deadlines. You may also call the clerk's office at 412-255-2138. Council President Lavelle.
Thank you. And this is a question for members. Normally when we do the schedule of our meetings, I moved our Tuesday meeting to Monday, obviously because of general election, but in my oversight, I forgot to also move our standing committee meeting, assuming most members were probably not going to want to be in here on Wednesday after the election. Would members prefer that we reschedule our standing committee meeting for Monday afternoon as well? Okay.
Aye.
And then I will reschedule our meeting for that afternoon with the planning department to go over the fair housing stuff. Okay.
So this can be the first.
So we'll have both meetings on Monday.
Right.
All right.
We can consider this the first public notice, but we'll have an
Yes.
official notice and timeline scheduled so that we're doing this legally great. So both meetings will be Monday at 10 a.m.
And
regular
1:30.
meeting and 1:30 p.m. respectively for standing committees. Okay, thank you. Anything else from members? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes and adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.